to declare open. It's my pleasure to declare open this special meeting of the District Council of Mount Remarkable's Audit and Risk Committee. Welcome all. I think should be a relatively quick meeting, but we'll see how we go. I did speak with Martin this morning. I thought the staff have done a good job, staff and council, getting to where you are with the draft annual business plan. So we'll see how we go. We've got Roz is looking after the minutes, I assume. She can record all those who are present. There's no apologies. Is there any disclosures of conflict of interest? And I should say, in terms of welcome, I'm really pleased to see other council members here as observers to today's meeting. Technically, of course, can't participate, but I'm keen to, that you've got an interest, and if there's any particular issue, I'm sure Martin can help resolve that. So if we keep on going, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts to declare at this point in time? Okay, if not, we can see how we go during the meeting. People can declare then if need be. I'll move to item 2 of the agenda, minutes of our previous meeting on the 20th of May. Is someone prepared to move that those minutes be accepted? Chris and Councillor Van Holst-Pelican. No discussion. If not, all those in favour? Carried. Thank you. That takes us to reports. Item 3 on the agenda is a report on the 3.1 draft 2025 annual business plan and budget. Normally, the audit committee would have had a chance to have a look at this before it had been formally released for public consultation. Timing-wise, that just wasn't possible this time, unfortunately. I'm in your hands, members. I have had I think a reasonable look at the document. I said to Martin this morning that there's probably a few little minor issues in terms of cosmetics, bit of grammar, that sort of thing, that I probably would have expressed a few things a little bit differently, but it's minor, and I don't really wish to go through that and take up time now. I'm happy to perhaps talk with Roz or Martin outside of the meeting, and if they think there's some cosmetic edits that could be made to the document, I'll leave it in their hands as to whether they wish to do so or not. How do you wish me to go, members? Do you want to go through this page by page, or will I just open it up and say, if people have got issues, we'll go through it in some order?
John, Dan here.
Yep.
Can I just suggest that, given that 2 of the committee members, and the Mayor and myself, have gone through it in a council meeting and we've expressed our support for it to go to public consultation, perhaps the most useful thing for all of us would be for you and Chris to share your thoughts and any updates over and above grammar, wording, spelling. I'm sure we'd be pleased to get your insights.
Okay, well, let me go first, Chris, and I'll just make some general comments. Genuinely, I'm pleased to see the document. I like the financial strategy that you've proposed. I'm very comfortable with the way the words have been expressed, and in particular, what you are proposing about rate increases and how that is consistent with the broader strategy that you have of achieving financial sustainability. There's still some way to go, but I'm comfortable with the progress that is being made here. I've had a look at the numbers compared with the current long-term financial plan, and that's why I asked the question earlier about the updates. And broadly, the numbers are consistent with the long-term financial plan that was adopted last July. So I think the strategy, the track that you are heading on, that you set for yourself 12 months ago, is being maintained. I don't see any significant changes from that. Yes, the rate increases are not insignificant, particularly in the current climate, but at the same time, they are less than what was proposed last year for this year. So in some ways, that's the good news. I guess I am a little bit mindful of the conditions, weather conditions this year, and the the drought that's being experienced in your part of the world in particular. I did ask Martin this morning, and he might just explain that a little bit clearer a little bit later on, how this compares with. I was interested in the depreciation issue. We decided as an audit committee last meeting that we want to see depreciation indexed from here on, or asset values indexed, which flows through to depreciation. Martin's told me that that has been factored into the draft budget for next year, so I was pleased to see that. I don't think I had any other issues. My look at the document was it meets your legislative requirements. And no, so on face value, I think you're on track. You're satisfying your needs, and I'm comfortable with the document. Chris, did you have anything in particular you wanted to add at this stage?
Councillor, I did, but Councillor Dan kind of had his hand up before me. Were you going to say something? Or?
No, thank you, Chris. I've got a question that can wait. No problem.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I had a bit of a think about the whole depreciation issue. I'm supportive of the document and mindful that obviously you've got $3.31 million worth of depreciation there and an operating deficit of 467. So you're more than comfortably covering, I guess, all of those cash items, for want of a better expression. And in having a look at the long-term financial plan, you've got a path back to an operating surplus, and you're actually, if I'm reading the right document, about 300,000 under in terms of the deficit that you thought you were going to have when you adopted your long-term financial plan 12 months ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm quite comfortable with that. We've spoken at length as a committee around our concerns on depreciation. I think the council's coming a long way in terms of its asset management. So it's identified the legacy issues and is working towards dealing with them. I have seen councils before carry deficits based on depreciation longer term. It's not the preferred way of doing things. And based on the fact that you're sticking to your long-term financial plan, which gets you back to a position of an operating surplus, in 2 years' time. And you also have you're forecasting a decent operating surplus this year. I'm quite comfortable with where this is at. And beyond that, I didn't really have any comments on it, other than just noting and commending the council on trying to strike the balance between sustainability and also community expectation, because I think my rough numbers said that my rough sums, and I could have done them wrong, but my rough sums said that if you wanted to close that operating surplus to zero or get a negligible operating deficit to zero, you would have had to, basically double your rates increase. So, and that's obviously not politically palatable. We've had some councils in Queensland, one's put the rates up 9.5%, one's put commercial rates up 21%, and they're getting hammered. Another council on the outskirts of Brisbane, a metropolitan council, put their rates up 11%. So, I think this strikes the right balance. Be curious to see what the community thinks. The silent majority as opposed to the keyboard warriors. But by and large, I support it.
Thank you. You had a question, Councillor Dan?
Yeah, and thank you, John and Chris, for your insights too, because it's it's very, very helpful to us. I appreciate that. My question was, and it's probably more for you, John, than for Chris, just because of your proximity, but are you able to crystal ball at all what you think ASCOSA might think of this next step in terms of their overall assessment of us soon?
I'm glad you've raised that question because I was thinking a bit the same when I had a look at this. I did check the ASCOSA website today to confirm my memory that it is looking at your council this year In fact, I'm sure there's already been some contact. I was in the SCOSA office last week and they were telling me of the work program. This year, to be blunt, you are in a group that was selected. I might have had a little bit of input to that. The councils that had a number of challenges, or well, not all, that's not true for all of them, but this year was always going to be the toughest year in terms of councils that have got improvement to make. So SCOSA deliberately left some of those ones with more challenges to last. It basically gave them a few years to get their house in order if they needed to. I would be very confident that SCOSA would say you're on the right track. You need to keep it up, but I don't believe it will be critical of what you are doing this year. I was looking at another council this morning and I thought, well, they need to do a bit more work to demonstrate their commitment to improving. I don't think it's unreasonable to back off your rate increase a little bit compared with what your long-term financial plan said. You've got the strategies in place. You've made some expenditure savings. They will very much like the indexation of depreciation. There is another council, as I said, I was looking at this morning, and I thought they're not demonstrating that they're committed to improving. But no, on face value, I think SCOSA will say you've got everything, all the documents you need. I think it's important, as I was hinting at earlier, to get that long-term financial plan updated in the next couple of months, and to broadly, if possible, to be able to maintain the same strategy in terms of improving your operating result over a similar time frame. No, so there's nothing that I've seen in this document that would cause concern. It'll tick the boxes that SCOSA wants to see, that you've expressed the need to improve, you've recognised that, and you're prepared to make hard decisions to do so. One of the things that SCOSA looks at is not just rate increases. It's, well, can you afford things? Are you looking at reducing expenditure where you can? And you've demonstrated in this document that you are focused on doing that as well. So, no, I don't see any concerns at all from SCOSA in what I've read today.
Thank you, John.
Excuse me, John.
Yes.
Just the chair, I just wanted to add probably the one paragraph that can probably be expanded on there. I'm happy to work with you on that, Mr. Chair. Just probably a good narrative around depreciation and I guess not paying in advance for sins that we haven't incurred yet. So making sure that it's an accurate representation to sort of give people that appreciation of the critical nature of it. It's very easy to guesstimate, but we don't want, I guess, a small business paying in advance for stuff that we should be incurring as well.
Correct. And look, Martin, that was the bit of the plan that I thought there's some words that aren't quite as clear as they should be there. There's probably some words that I would have liked to have seen added as well. So happy to talk with you or Roz or Yoshi separate. It won't materially change anything, but I think we can just add a little bit of clarity to a few of the statements in that section.
Thank you. And we have had the first kickoff meeting with SCOSA as well. So we've been introduced to the team that come on site, which was good. It was a good couple of hours. We spent with them running through some strategies and certainly very positive in terms of their response with what they can find online versus the strategies moving forward and how that's impacting delivery of our services, but also that longer term conversation too.
Good. When I was with SCOSA last week, I reminded them of my role with your council, so we deliberately didn't talk about Mount Remarkable, but I do know a few of the other councils that are going to be reviewed this year are going to have some challenges. So I think SCOSA's Mount Remarkable is probably going to score relatively well, I would think, in comparison.
Yeah. Just one other thing, if I can beg your indulgence to, just regards to the proposed budget and the business plan. Flinders Ranges are going out with a really low rate on 5%, so there'll be some, I guess, challenges around what our neighbours are doing with their proposed increases, and I see you probably stifling a bit of a grimace there, John, in terms of what their determination was. The workshops we'll hold with elected members are going to be key in terms of helping our community understand the work that's gone in to deliver the reduction, but also the need for that rise as well.
Well, exactly. And I was particularly pleased to see that the annual business plan highlights your commitment to adhering to or spending in accordance with your asset management plan. One or two of your neighbouring councils would struggle to be able to say that because they don't have up-to-date asset management plans, etc. So I'm sure Ascosa will make a comment about that. Members, any other questions or comments at this point in time?
Not from me.
I'm interpreting that no one sees a need to go through anything in particular, any page of the document.
No, I was just going to say, John, I forgot to mention it before, just to further reinforce my comments. Council's cash position actually improves over the 12 months. So, yeah, So, like I say, quite comfortable.
Exactly. Cash is not the problem at Mount Remarkable in the short to medium term, at least. Members, are we happy to consider the recommendations that we've got before us at this point in time? The recommendations are on page 9 of my agenda documents, and they are that the Audit and Risk Committee, 1, receives and notes the report, 2, approves for Council to adopt the draft 25/6 ABM and budget at the special meeting to be held on 22nd of July. I'd probably just suggest a little bit of rewording of that. Technically, Council's already adopted the draft budget it's released it. What we want it to do is, we want it to adopt an annual business plan and budget consistent with the draft. I think is probably what I'd probably prefer to see, something like that. Approves for Council to adopt a 25/26 annual business plan and budget consistent with the draft document. And I'd probably like to see a couple of words added into there, subject, to minor cosmetic edits that that the CEO considers warranted or something, and that would give me a chance to talk with a staff member about a few little cosmetic things. Words along that line, would they be the Audit Committee comfortable with that sort of approach?
John,
Councillor Dan.
Dan here, so long as consistent with the current draft includes the possibility for, or it implies the possibility for consideration of feedback.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Because consideration of the feedback, assessing it doesn't mean.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think that's a good point.
It wouldn't be quite right for Audit and Risk Committee to be seen to be excluding that possibility.
Absolutely. I mean, that technically, I'd argue that's implied by the legislation, regardless. But I don't think it hurts at all to say that those sort of words, subject to or consistent with or having regard to. Yeah. I don't care what. But yes, we want to make sure that people understand their feedback will be appropriately considered before a decision is made.
That's right. Yeah.
You happy to move that way, Councillor Dan?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is there a seconder? Chris Kelly, thank you. If there's no further discussion, members, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Members, there was one other item on our agenda today, and that was there's no correspondence. There were no other reports in Section 3, nothing in Section 4. Section 5, confidential items. Now, there's a proposal that we go into confidential session here, and if the members agree to that, we'll have to make sure that those that haven't been approved to stay are not present in the room or are not present via the internet as well. So the first step will be to see whether we do pass a resolution to go into confidential session or not. I have got that on, so it's page 49 of my agenda. Is there a resolution there to go into confidential session? Yes, up the top. It's not spelled out as a resolution, but there's some words there.
Martin, is the Mayor trying to ask a question?
Let's just about going into confidence, Chris.
I don't know. He's just waving his hand around. I just wondered.
Oh, sorry. Yes, the first issue is, are we going to go into confidence or not? Is someone prepared to pass a resolution? Mayor McCarthy, you're moving that way.
Yeah.
And is there a seconder? Chris Kelly. And Martin, will you just explain the formal words that we are moving to go into confidential session and who is and who isn't in?
Yes, certainly. So we don't have any members of the public dialed in.
Right.
So there's no need to exclude any members of the public, and certainly the elected members present as observers will receive the same report, so there's no need to exclude them. The reason under Section 90, Part 2 of the Local Government Act is obviously the proposal contained within the agenda provides some corporately sensitive information, so until such time as that's ratified by the council, we consider that in confidence in terms of full disclosure that's contained.
Thank you, Martin. So that's all consistent with that paragraph at the third paragraph of your report there, or second and third. So it's been moved and seconded. If everyone's clear, there's no one online, so we're all good. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. So we now are in confidential session.